Hey everyone, Gamma Spidey here, back in the gym in Southern California. I just finished an awesome arm workout. I want to show you what I did. We'll talk about the exercises, the sets, the reps, the methods involved. We'll also talk about how changing your grip can actually change how the resistance targets the muscle during the exercise. So I hope this is really helpful for you, and let's get started.
Okay, so I like to start my workouts by doing some light stretching and doing a couple exercises for the muscle groups that I'll be training during that workout. So since I'm training arms, I decided to do some tricep extensions with the rope and some bicep curls with some dumbbells. So for your warm-up sets, it's important to use lightweight. You don't want to feel much of a burn when you're doing your warm-up exercises. You just want to get some blood into the muscle and the joints. One thing I wanted to show you when using the rope attachment for tricep extensions is to not twist the wrist. So what I mean is just pull the rope straight down, right towards the waist, and extend the arms. What you don't want to do is this, twist the rope at the bottom of the movement. It's not necessary, and it doesn't train the triceps any differently. Twisting the rope overworks the forearms in this instance, and since this is a tricep specific exercise, we'll save forearms for a different one. Speaking of which, here I'm warming up my forearms with some dumbbells, just twisting them back and forth and using the momentum to give me some resistance. After that, I went into some curls with the dumbbells. Again, very lightweight, not trying to work them yet, just trying to warm them up. The increased blood flow that you get from warming up like this will not only help prevent injury, it will help you increase your performance during your workout. So it's definitely worthwhile to take a few minutes at the beginning of your workout to warm up a bit. So in this workout, I decided to work triceps first and then move on to biceps later. The first exercise I did were skull crushers, or barbell tricep extensions, or even French press. Whatever you call them, they're a great compound movement for the triceps. One thing to keep in mind when structuring your workouts is to put the exercises that you're strongest at in the beginning of your workouts. This will help you lift optimal amount of weight to stimulate the muscle during the exercise. The beginning of the workout is when the muscle is fresh and ready to go. So take advantage of that and do the exercises that you're strongest at first. But don't lift weight that is too heavy for you. Optimal rep range for muscle growth is between 8 and 20 repetitions. Anything below 8 and you're in strength training territory. If you go above 20 or 25, now you're in endurance training. Your goals are what should determine how to do your workout. The next exercise I did were tricep extensions with the cable. I used the W or cambered bar attachment and chose a close grip for the first set. For tricep extensions, you want to keep the elbows close into the body, and at the top of the movement, you only want the elbow to bend a little less than 90 degrees. Any more than that, and the elbows tend to move forward during the exercise, and we don't want that. We just want to keep the elbows right where they're at the entire time. Bending, but not moving. I did 2 sets of these, one inside grip and one wide grip. But for time purposes, I'm only showing the inside grip. After this, I did a couple variations that I wanted to show you guys. I also wanted to talk about how changing your hand position can actually change how the muscle receives the load of the weight during the exercise. So to change things up a little bit, here I'm using a reverse wide grip. Using a wide grip on tricep extensions, whether underhand or overhand, tends to work the long head of the triceps more. This is anatomically the largest head of the tricep, and the part that you see when you're doing a front double bicep flex or the inside of the arm. After that, I used a close grip, which works the lateral head of the tricep, which you can see flexing from the outside of the arm. Close grip movements are good for overall thickness in the tricep. Switching grips or changing hand positions is a great way to get a nice overall development in the muscle group that you're training. So I continued using the cables, but this time I switched to the rope attachment. Just like we used in the warm-up, only this time we're doing working sets, meaning that we're using heavier weight and working the muscle harder. Again, we're only letting the elbow bend a little less than 90 degrees at the top of the movement, and we're not twisting the rope at the bottom of the movement. When you extend the arm, you want to fully extend and flex the tricep without locking the elbow joint. Never ever ever lock out the joints when doing resistance training with weights. Locking out a joint transfers the load of the weight from the muscle to the joint itself. This puts unnecessary stress on the joint and takes the resistance off the muscle. But the most efficient way to train the muscle during resistance training is to keep constant tension on the muscle being worked. So I definitely don't recommend locking out the joints during resistance training. On my last set of tricep extension with the rope, I did a drop set. This means I loaded up the stack with whatever I could do about 10 to 15 reps with. Then after the muscle fatigued, I lowered the weight about 20% and immediately continued on with the reps. I did as many as I could every time after lowering the weight. Once the muscle was fatigued and I couldn't keep good form, I lowered the weight again. I think in this drop set, I lowered the weight 2 times. Drop sets are a great way to fatigue through all the muscle fibers in the muscle group that you're training. They're also a handy tool when you're training alone, like I am here. If you don't have a spotter, lowering the weight and continuing on with the set and pushing out some more reps is kind of like a way of spotting yourself. I've also found drop sets to be extremely effective for very high endurance muscle groups such as traps and calves. There will be a more in-depth description of drop sets in the blog post that follows this workout on my website. I'll post a link to that below. For my last tricep exercise, I just stuck with a bodyweight exercise and did some close grip push-ups off the back of an incline bench. I did as many push-ups as I could, and then I lowered the bench to increase the resistance slightly. As you lower the bench, more of your body weight is transferred to your hands than to your feet, and the push-ups progressively become harder to do. When doing push-ups to work your triceps, keep your elbows close into the body rather than going out like a normal push-up that would work your chest. Keeping the elbows close into the body puts more emphasis on the tricep and takes the stress off your pecs. Once I was done with these, I decided to move on to biceps. Moving on to biceps, again, you want to start with exercises that you're strongest at. For me, it's usually barbell curls or cable curls. I used the cambered bar or W bar, and I did 4 sets altogether. 2 using the wide grip, as you see here, and 2 using the close grip, as you see here. Just as with the triceps, changing your hand position can change which head of the bicep you're working more. A wide grip will emphasize the short head of the bicep or the inside of the arm, while a close grip will emphasize the long head of the bicep or the outside of the arm. In other words, a wide grip will give you overall size to the bicep, while a close grip will help you focus on bicep thickness. Because the close grip also works the brachialis, or as trainers sometimes say, biceps little helper. So I apologize for the lighting in these shots, but the next exercise I did were cable curls with the W or cambered bar, and I used an overhand or reverse grip. In this situation, because of the reverse grip, we're also working the forearms. This particular movement puts a lot of emphasis on the brachioradialis, or the large muscle at the top of your forearm. In addition to working the biceps, it also hits the brachialis, which again is great for bicep thickness. One thing I'd like to note is I don't recommend using a close grip with the W or cambered bar because that would force the wrist into an unnatural position and it's not very ergonomic. So if you're going to use a close hand reverse grip, I'd recommend using a straight bar attachment. The next exercise I did was seated bicep alternating dumbbell supinated curls. In other words, these things that I'm doing right here. What that all basically means is I'm doing one arm at a time and I'm twisting the dumbbell so that I'm palms up at the top of the movement. Supinating or twisting the dumbbell as the forearm comes up allows for a greater contraction in the bicep at the top of the movement. Alternating allows me to focus on one arm at a time, and the reason I chose to sit down is to minimize as much movement as possible in the upper body. This brings me to something very important that I'd like to point out. In all the exercises in this video, I've tried to handle myself with proper form in every exercise. This means that while the rest of my body is tense in order to give my arms a good foundation to move the weight, it is not overcompensating by weight that is too heavy for me to handle. When training your arms, keeping good form is pretty simple. The biceps and triceps are responsible for the flexion and extension of the forearm. So basically, during an arm workout, the only thing that should be doing the most movement is your forearms. Using weight that is too heavy can lead to little progress and possibly injury. The last exercise I did for biceps was single arm bench curls, or preacher curls. Putting your upper arm on a bench like this puts it in a fixed position. This prevents any other muscle group from helping the bicep lift the weight. This is great in that it ensures that the bicep is the only muscle that's moving the weight, but it is very important to be aware of this throughout the exercise. Because the biceps is basically carrying the load all by themselves, it's important to not fully extend the arm during this exercise. The best way to perform this exercise is to extend the arm just to the point before full extension of the elbow joint. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you to limit your movement. As you can see here, I'm almost fully extended at the bottom of the movement, just not fully extended. Performing bench curls or preacher curls like this will help keep the biceps under constant tension and help prevent any strain or injury to the lower bicep or tendons. And with that exercise, my arm workout is finished. I hope this video was helpful, and if you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to put them in the comments below or send me an email at gammaspidey260@gmail.com. If you're interested in reading the full workout, including the amount of sets and repetitions, I'll be posting that on my website. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Until next time, thanks for watching.